Hi guys, this is my second trimester recap that I am refilming because we lost footage. So I'm trying to get all of these done before I actually go into labor. I'm about 30, almost 35 weeks now with my twins. And so I just kind of wanted to catch you guys up on what's been going on through this pregnancy. It's pretty hot today, so I think we're gonna be going to the pool. So that's kind of the outfit that I have going on, in case you're wondering. If you haven't already watched my first trimester recap, I'll link that down below. You guys can check that out. But basically I found out, or we found out, that I was having the twins at like 12 and a half weeks pregnant, and up until then we had been to 3 ultrasounds. Always looked like there was just one, and so that was a big surprise. And I left to go to Hawaii scheduled for 5 weeks 2 days after we found that out. So it was not only a shock, but then also we had to kind of have these conversations of like, oh my goodness, like we had to deal with a lot of this over the phone, and just processing, planning, and all of that. So that was kind of tricky. So I ended up being in Hawaii from the time I was 13 weeks till 20 weeks. So we're trying to do the math. Yes, that's more than 5 weeks. I ended up getting a cold at the end of the trip, so I extended the trip. But luckily Micah was able to come for 2 weeks. He came for like the 4th and 5th week, and that was kind of our scheduled family vacation time, visit family, and all of that. So I missed Hachi probably the most, our dog, our first daughter. She and I did not see each other for the full 7 weeks, but at least I got to see Micah. There was some stuff that came up and then I had to deal with it by myself. So we'll kind of explain that. About, I don't even remember, a few days or maybe a week after I first got to Hawaii, I started having a lot of brown bleeding. It wasn't like it was before where it was bright red blood, and so I wasn't highly concerned, but I did want to get checked out. So I went to the OB there, and they referred me to their perinatologist, who I loved. He was amazing. He was the head of the department, and I was so glad that I caught him. You know, because when you're traveling and you go to a different doctor, and it just can kind of feel like, make you feel uneasy sometimes, but I felt like really well taken care of there. And so he explained to me that what it looked like was I just had this pocket of blood that just, like, he was like, yeah, that's gonna keep bleeding until it's gone, and unless it turns bright red, don't worry about it. And he said it was either that or my body just trying to figure out what to do with the triplet that we lost. Your body's just trying to like reabsorb and get through that. And so but because of all this, he did want to see me every 2 weeks while I was there. So I got to do the ultrasounds there and check up on the twins and get to see them moving. So it's kind of a bummer that Micah wasn't there to see that stuff. But I took little clips for him and was able to send it to him. So and they did perfectly fine while I was there. No other like complications other than that that little bit of bleeding, but it did last for like a week long, and so it's kind of like made me a little on edge, like, okay, when is it gonna stop, when is it gonna stop? But it eventually did, and other than that, the babies did fine. Just like with Alina's pregnancy, I did notice I had a lot more energy during the 2nd trimester. I did, however, keep my C-bands on because for a few weeks into the 2nd trimester, because I just wasn't convinced that it was fully gone. I didn't want to risk it. So even at the beach, I had my C-bands on, looking like a nerd, but whatever. One thing I do wish Micah was there for was Alina climbed out of her crib on this trip. And so that was the first time she's done it. She's been capable of it for a long time, but yeah, I was not ready for that. Everyone handles this differently, but my child does not. She is an excellent sleeper. However, she does not sleep well if she's not in some sort of crib. She just, if you are not me or Micah, you would think that she's never tired. She's just always running around and playing, and if you lay her on the bed, she'll just roll off and want to play. And so even if it's bedtime, we've tried it. We've tried to just like see what happens if she just lays there, and she's totally like doesn't get it. So I was like, I'm not dealing with this by myself in Hawaii, this huge transition. So I kind of like used super nanny technique, and I just went back in, told her it was night-night time, rocked her again, laid her down, left the room. She got out again, so I went in, didn't talk to her, just rocked her, put her down. And then the third time, there's just, you just put it straight back down. And she was so persistent. I think it ended up being 12 times where I stopped even going out of the room because she would just climb out immediately. And around time number 7, I was like, I think I'm done. But I decided, no, I am gonna win this battle because it will be disastrous if she doesn't stay in these. So I stayed in the room, sat in the dark, and just kept laying her down. And after the 12th time, she just stopped and she went to sleep. I think one other day she tried to climb out of the pack and play at Micah's grandma's house or something. But other than that, she didn't really ever do it again. And so I'm very grateful for that. Although I was kind of worried, you know, being pregnant and doing all that repeated lifting and bending over down into the pack and play. That was a moment where I wished Micah was there to handle it, but we got through it, and Alina is still sleeping in her crib, so props to me. Although I get this extra energy in my second trimester, this time I don't know how to explain this exactly, but I was complaining to Micah that I was tired a lot, but looking back, it wasn't pregnancy related. It was just because I had a lot of work to do, and because I had the energy to do it, I wanted to do a lot. And so because of that, I didn't really rest much, or I think I took like 2 naps in the whole 7 weeks that I was there, when someone else could watch Alina. And so it was just a very busy trip, but I knew I wanted to get that work in before my 3rd trimester because I didn't know how the 3rd trimester would be with twins. So that was my choice. But pregnancy-wise, symptom-wise, I felt good. So Micah was scheduled to fly back with me to help me bring Alina back to the mainland. And that didn't happen because I caught a cold and Micah had to go back to work. So he flew by himself, and because my cold, I had so much congestion, the doctor didn't want me flying because he said I could burst an eardrum. So he said it was up to me, I could go and I could be perfectly fine. But when he said that, I was like, that sounds terrible. And because I'm pregnant, I know I wouldn't want to take the pain medication for a bursted eardrum. So since I didn't have to be back yet, I decided to just extend my trip. I am the type of person that I don't like to take medication if I can avoid it when I'm pregnant. I know some moms are totally gonna understand that, and some moms are gonna think like, oh my gosh, you're ridiculous, it says it's safe. But that's just how I feel. I try to avoid it as much as I can. So really all I was doing to deal with this sore throat and congestion and everything was hot water with lemon, sucking on like hard candies or something to help with the sore throat. What else? Oh, steam from the shower, or like after my grandma would make tea, I would just let the steam kind of go into my face and try to alleviate some of the congestion that way. I was getting a cough as well, and it's still affecting me. Like when I lie down now to go to bed, it's always when I lay down and relax, I'll just go into a coughing fit for like a minute. And I'm not still sick, it just, I think my airways are just extra reactive from that cold and all the coughing, and just with the pregnancy, that extra pressure on your diaphragm or your lungs, it just triggers it when I lie down. So that's kind of annoying, but just a little lasting memory from that trip in Hawaii. And luckily, Micah's dad was able to help me fly back with her, which I kept telling everyone, I can do it myself, I can do it myself, it'll be okay. But I'm actually really glad that he came, because on the day that we flew back to the mainland, I was getting these really sharp pains that I remember getting with Alina when I was pregnant with her, just a few times. but it's this strange, like right behind my belly button, this super sharp pain. And when it happens, I can't move really. Like I have to stay still, or it's excruciating if I try to move. But if I just stay still, it's just kind of like, oh, that's sharp. Like pretty painful, but I can deal with it. And so while I think maybe because I was packing and doing a lot that morning, it triggered it. But through the airport and when we got on the plane, I was getting a lot of those pains. And so I was so thankful that he was there to help me, like, you know, pick up Alina, grab all the bags, do all these things that lifting would have made that pain so much worse. So something different this time around was definitely that I was showing a lot earlier. So I started showing at around 8 to 10 weeks, I noticed it. Or Micah and I could notice it, but I don't know if other people really could, because I tend to wear baggy clothes anyways. But while I was in Hawaii, it definitely started to show, and we were tripping out at how much bigger I was getting so quickly compared to my pregnancy with just Alina. And we were lazy, we didn't really take any bump shots or anything. So I think it was the last day before I flew back to the mainland, and I dragged my brother with me and was like, I have to get a picture for the twins, because I take these pictures mostly for them, for my daughters. I always have this thought, like if anything were to happen to me, I just want them to have as many pictures of me with them, me pregnant with them, stuff like that, letters from me, something that will just help them get through hard times, or when they're pregnant, when they're having their own families, or even if nothing does happen to me. I just love the pictures of me and my mom, and when, you know, looking back at when she was pregnant with me, you just get all the feels. And so I just want them to have that. Even if I don't feel that great, I get dressed and I go and take a photo for them. So I know material things don't mean much, but my grandpa was a surfing photographer, and so photography just runs through my blood, and growing up, photos have meant a lot to me. I do that stuff mostly for them so that they have it, because I loved having it growing up, and I'm really grateful that my parents and my grandpa took all those pictures and did all of that. So I just thought, you know, I'm sure I'll take more photos later in the pregnancy, but I really want them to have one while I was pregnant with them in Hawaii. And so they got one, and we got eaten alive by mosquitoes, but it's okay, we got it done. All right, I'm gonna put in a couple photos right here from our 20-week ultrasound that I did when I got back from Hawaii. There's a little background story to this. When I was about 13 weeks pregnant, we did a prenatal blood screening test and never got to find out the results, because I guess since they didn't know that I was expecting twins, they weren't able to read the results because they would be skewed. So not only did they not know that there were twins in there, but they also didn't know that it was triplets, and then one of them, you know, we had lost at around 6.5 weeks. So they just said basically they couldn't give us the results, and we would have to wait until our second trimester to repeat the blood test and find out more details at that time. So I went for this 20-week ultrasound. The girls looked good, a little bit on the small side, but still within normal, and no concerns that we knew of at that time. But then I got a call with the results from the second trimester blood screen, and they said that my AFP levels were elevated, and not just slightly elevated, but they were pretty high. So that sent us into a ball of worries. But they said the risk for Down syndrome and those issues were low. However, I still had this high AFP, so they were more concerned with something like spina bifida. But since I already had the ultrasound and they didn't know to look for it specifically, they wanted me to come back in and just have the ultrasound tech do an extra good job looking for anything, because again, it was kind of high. So we went back in. They didn't see any issues with the spine, no spina bifida. So although I read it can be just because you're having twins. Sometimes that level can be elevated, but mine was just higher than, you know, a marginal type of elevation. So the worry is still there for me anyways, but the doctor said, you know, anything big we would have seen by now. So hopefully they're just born healthy and everything is fine and we don't have to worry about this anymore. They did confirm at this 20-week ultrasound that they were girls, which we had been confirming at every ultrasound before that. But here's a little shot of that. Here's a little photo of baby A waving her hand. I always like seeing them, and one good thing about being a high-risk pregnancy is that we get to see the babies quite often because we get so many ultrasounds. So it's always reassuring to see them moving around, kicking, waving their hands. It's always nice to see my girls. That pretty much wraps up my second trimester recap. Like I said, I'll link the first trimester recap down below. I'm just trying to get caught up on these recaps of the footage that we lost so that I can actually start posting the third trimester updates and bump shots that I've been doing before the babies come. The reason I do these is because when I was pregnant with Alina, it was really helpful to me to watch other women and hear about what they were going through at similar points in their pregnancies. So hopefully this is helpful, or at least interesting to somebody out there. If it was to you, if you could give the video a thumbs up, that would be awesome. And thank you so much for following along. I will see you guys in the next video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. We try to get back to everybody as quickly as we can. But thanks again, guys. Bye.